If you're a student in 2026 and you're not using AI tools in your workflow, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now and watch this entire video because you're leaving so much on the table. And I'm not talking about using AI to cheat on your assignments. I'm talking about using the right AI tools to learn faster, build better, and actually stand out when you enter the job market. And trust me, the gap between students who know these tools and students who don't know is becoming very, very wide very fast. Now, I get it. There are thousands of best AI tools lists out there, and they all feel exactly the same. A wall of AI app with 2-sentence description that tells you absolutely nothing about how to actually use them. So today I'm going to be doing something different. I've put together the best free and freemium tools across 6 different categories that I genuinely believe every student should have in their toolkit right now. And for each one, I'm going to tell you exactly how to use it and not just what it is. Now, before we jump in, a quick introduction about myself. I'm Aishwarya Srinivasan. You can call me Ash. I've spent over 10 years in machine learning and AI. I have a master's in data science from Columbia University, and I've worked at companies like Fireworks, Microsoft, Google, and IBM. I'm currently leading AI developer relations at Nebius. I'm also building the Gen Academy, which is an AI skill building platform which is focused on real production-ready AI skills. I've been sharing educational resources on data science and AI for over a decade on LinkedIn, and I've recently started creating content on Instagram and YouTube. If you don't follow me on other platforms, then please do so. In each of these platforms, I share content on different levels of expertise and different styles. Now, let's start with the tools that are going to completely change on how you actually study. And the first one I think is genuinely underrated despite how well known it has gotten. Now, the first one is NotebookLM, which is from Google and it's free. The wonderful part is it only answers using the source that you've uploaded into it. So instead of making up things or pulling from random corners on the internet, it stays completely grounded on your own material. Now, here is how I would use it. Create one notebook per course and upload everything that you have in there. Your lecture slides, textbook chapters as PDFs, YouTube video links, and any papers that you've been assigned. Then ask it things like create a 10-question quiz from chapter number 4, or what are the 5 most important concepts in these notes. The quiz feature alone is worth it. But here's the thing that most students are not using, which is the audio overview. It generates a podcast-style conversation between 2 AI hosts summarizing your material. You can listen to it on your commute, at the gym, wherever. It's studying without sitting down. Then the next one is Perplexity. I'm sure you would have heard about it, but not a lot of people are using it as much. It's amazing if you want answers which are grounded to source. So if you're doing some research for your assignments or you want a deep research report, go to Perplexity. Where it really shines is in the academic mode. If you're researching on a topic for a paper, switch to academic mode and it pulls only from peer-reviewed sources. So instead of spending 2 hours digging through Google Scholar, you can just ask it something like, what does the research say about economic impact of automation on entry-level jobs? And get a synthesized, cited answer in 30 seconds. Then you can even ask follow-up questions like, what are the strongest counter-arguments here? And you've got a genuinely balanced view of your literature. And then there's of course Claude and ChatGPT. I know everyone talks about these, but I want to give you 2 specific ways to use them that most students don't think about. First, use them as your personal tutor. Not to write your essays, but to explain things to you. Say things like explain how transformers work, like I'm smart but I have zero machine learning background. That framing is honestly magic. It skips the condensation and the jargon at the same time. Second, use them to quiz you actively. After you've studied something, ask it to quiz you with 5 hard questions, grade your answers, and explain exactly what went wrong. That active retrieval practices is one of the most evidence-based learning techniques we have, and now it is available for free. Now, this is where it gets really exciting for the tech students in the room. And honestly, even if you're studying things like economics or business, you should be writing a little bit of code in 2026. Let's talk about the tools that help you do this much easily. The first one is Cursor AI. This is the tool I hear more senior engineers raving about than almost anything else right now, including me. It's an AI native code editor built on VS Code. So if you're already using VS Code, you already know the interface. Now, what makes Cursor different is that it understands your entire code base, not just the file that you have open. You press Command K, describe a change in plain English, something like add input validation to the login form, and it writes the change across whatever files needed to be updated. It has a freemium tier that is genuinely useful, and it is the closest thing that I've seen having a senior developer sitting right next to you. Now, one tip here, When it suggests a fix, use tab to accept one line at a time instead of bulk accepting everything. That way you actually understand what changed, and that's how you get better at your own coding skills. The second one is Claude Code, and this operates on a different level for larger projects. It's Anthropic's agentic coding tool that runs directly on your terminal. You give it a multi-step task like add a REST API endpoint for user login with JWT authentication and write tests for it. And it goes and does it. It reads your files, writes the code, runs the test, fixes its own errors, and loops until everything's working. For students working on capstone projects or side projects, I highly recommend this. Using Claude Code has become one of the biggest skills in the AI market right now. Then the next one is GitHub Copilot. Here is something that most students don't know. If you have a .edu email, you can get GitHub Copilot completely free through the GitHub Student Developer Pack. Just sign up, verify your student status, and done. It's lightweight, it has always on autocomplete that lives right inside your VS Code. And the best way to use it is to write your intent as a comment before you write any code. Something like filter rows where revenue is greater than 10,000 and sort by date descending. Then just press tab. It writes the code, you verify it, and that habit of describing what you want before you write it also makes you much clearer thinker when it comes to actually solving problems, which pays dividends way beyond just using a tool. Now, learning concepts is great, but building things is better. So here are 3 tools that give you an actual sandbox to do it. The first one is Google Colab, which is a free cloud-based Python notebook, and it entirely runs on your browser. There's nothing to install, no environment to break, no GPU to buy. Just go to colab.new and you're in a Python environment with free access to T4 GPUs. For students, this removes the single biggest barrier to getting started in data science and machine learning, which is the setup time. Now, Kaggle is right next to Colab in my mind, but for a different reason. It is not just a place to run notebooks, but it is a community with 50,000 plus public datasets, structured micro courses, and real competitions that you can enter and get money, and real competitions that you can enter and win prizes. And here's the thing that most people miss. These competitions are your portfolio project. When you finish even a beginner level competition, you have a real documented project that you can point to in your interviews. Then the next one is Hugging Face. Hugging Face is one that I really want you to pay attention to because it has become the central hub for AI development in 2026. Think of it like GitHub, but specifically for AI models and datasets. You can find a pre-trained model for almost any task, from text summarization to sentiment analysis to image classification, and the code to use it in usually 5 lines. Copy it to Colab and run it. And when you've built something that you want to share, Hugging Face Spaces lets you deploy a free interactive demo using Gradio so anyone can try your project inside the browser. That's the kind of portfolio projects that'll make a recruiter actually stop scrolling. Now let's talk about interviews. I know this is the part that makes a lot of students anxious. So let me be real with you. There are tools that exist to make this feel less scary, but only if you start using them early and consistently. The first one is NeetCode. NeetCode is the answer to the chaos that is trying to navigate thousands of random algorithm problems with no structure. NeetCode gives you a curated list of 150 problems that actually cover every pattern that shows up in real FANG interviews. And for every single problem, there's a free video walkthrough by somebody who has actually been through the process. The rule I would give you is set 25-minute timer before you look at any hint or solution. The struggle is not a signal that you're doing it wrong. The struggle is literally how your brain builds pattern to solve these problems under pressure. After you solve a problem, rewatch the video to see if there is a cleaner approach. Then come back to the same problem a week later and solve it again from scratch without looking at the solution. That repetition is a system that actually works. Then the next tool is Final Round AI. Final Round AI is where you take all of that prep and put it under real pressure. It's an AI interview coach that runs full mock interviews for technical, behavioral, and PM roles. And then it gives you structured feedback immediately after the mock interview. What I love the most about it is it scores your communication clarity and your structure separately from your technical accuracy. Because here is what a lot of students don't realize. You can get the right answer and still tank an interview if you cannot explain your thinking clearly. Final Round AI helps you fix that before your actual interviews start. Now the next section is for everyone in the room, not just the tech students. Anyone who's writing papers, doing literature reviews, or trying to actually understand academic research. The first one is Gemini Deep Research. It is a research agent which is built into Gemini that doesn't just search the web, it actually plans multi-step research approach. It autonomously browses dozens of sources and produces a structured cited report. If you give it a broad question like what are the economic impacts of AI automation on entry-level jobs in the US, it comes back with a proper organized report. Very similar to what I said about Perplexity, but even deeper. Now here's the most important thing I want you to understand about how to use it. Treat the output as a first draft, not a finished paper. Export it to Google Docs and use it as a scaffold to write your own analysis. Let the agent do the information gathering while you do the synthesis and the critical thinking. That is the combination that will make your work genuinely better. Then the next tool is SciSpace. It is for when you're staring at a dense academic paper and you have absolutely no idea what the methodology section is really saying. You upload or link any paper and you can ask it questions directly. You can highlight a confusing paragraph and hit explain. You can ask it how papers approach differs from the standard methodology in the field. It breaks down dense academic writing in a way that makes reading actual research feel a lot less intimidating. And over time, you genuinely get much better at reading research papers. Now the last category, and these are the tools that tie everything together. So the first one here is Notion. Notion is free for student with .edu email, and it's the closest thing to the second brain that I've found. What I would recommend is build a semester dashboard as your homepage, with sub-pages for each class and a single master database tracking every assignment with its due date, priority, and status. Now, then you can filter the database by due this week, every Sunday, and you have your entire weekly plan in about 30 seconds. Notion AI can also take your messy class notes and turn them into clean summary with key takeaways. You can also have it join your meetings and take notes from there. Okay, now the next tool is Whisperflow. Whisperflow is something that I spend most of my time on. I barely type these days, I just dictate it to Whisperflow. It's an AI voice dictation tool that works across your entire computer. You can just set a trigger key of whatever you want, hold the trigger key and just dictate. Whether it's on Google Docs, Notion, email, Slack, ChatGPT, anywhere. It transcribes your words, automatically removes the filler words and fixes your grammar and creates a clear text. For students, this is amazing for drafting. This is the reason, right? When you type, your brain edits as you go, which slows down everything. But when you speak, you capture your thoughts at the speed that you actually think. We all know that speaking is faster than typing. So save time using Whisperflow. Okay, now the next one is Excalidraw, which is a free virtual whiteboard with an AI text to diagram feature that I think is massively underrated. You can just go to excalidraw.com, click on the AI wand and describe a system or a process in plain English. Let's say you want a user login flow with OAuth. It generates a clear, editable diagram that you can rearrange and annotate right on the canvas. Especially computer science students can use it for system design. Business students can use it to map out frameworks or essay argument structure. And then you can export it as a PNG and drop right into your presentation. It looks like you've spent hours into it, but it only takes a few minutes. Okay, now finally, it's Nano Banana 2 Pro, which is Google's image generation model built right into Gemini. And this one is genuinely impressive, especially for students. It can create infographics, turn your handwritten notes into diagrams, and generate data visualizations, which means it's not just for pretty pictures, it is actually useful for assignments and presentations. The free tier gives you access right inside Gemini app, so you don't have to go to any separate tool. Just open Gemini, describe what you want, and it generates it. So things like marketing mockups or assignment covers or even posters come out very professionally. Now here is a tip for students. Describe what you need with as much specificity as possible. Don't just say build an infographic for climate change. Say something like create a clean, minimal infographic explaining the 3 main causes of climate change, flat design, green and white color palette with labeled sections. The more detail that you give in, the clearer it lands. Okay, so we covered all the 6 categories. Now all the links and resources that we just spoke about is going to be there in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please do subscribe and hit that bell icon. I post regularly about AI and machine learning career tips, free resources, educational explainers, and my journey as an immigrant in the US building a career as an AI leader. Now this community means a lot to me and I genuinely want to keep showing up with content that actually moves the needle for you. So if you have any questions, please do drop that in the comments below. Now one last thing, I'm a co-founder of the Gen Academy alongside my incredibly talented friend and co-founder Arvind. Together we have built a deep dive mastering agentic AI bootcamp that teaches you how AI agents actually work in production, not the surface level theory that you'll find in a typical course. So if you're serious about building with AI and want to go deep, definitely check it out. The link is in the description below.